네, 오늘 마지막 세션을 시작하도록 하겠습니다. 참여자분들께서는 다시 모니터 앞에 착석 부탁드립니다. 첫째 날 마지막 세션에서는 오늘 굉장히 핫한 키워드죠. NFT에 대해 알아봅니다. 단순한 투자 열기를 넘어 NFT는 새로운 시대에 어떤 함의를 갖고 있을까요? 과연 NFT는 창작자에게도 수익을 배분하며 창작물의 커먼즈적 관점에서부터 ESG 관점에 이르기까지 새로운 혁신을 불러일으키는 원동력이 될 수 있을까요? 최근 ESG 기반 NFT 활용과 NFT 중심 크리에이터 빌딩을 실험하고 있는 김경민 서울대 도시사회혁신 전공 교수님께서 이러한 논의를 심도 있게 끌어주실 예정입니다. 역시 이번 세션에서도 총 3분의 패널을 모셨는데요. 마이클 케이시 코인데스크 최고콘텐츠책임자, 블록체인 에반젤리스트로도 잘 알려진 데이비드 오번 싱귤러리티 대학교 고문, 마지막으로 세계 최초 분산형 글로벌 은행 플랫폼 에퀴파이의 브래드 야사르 CEO의 인사이트를 함께 들어보도록 하겠습니다.
Hello, my name is Kyung-Min Kim. I'm a professor at Seoul National University. I am the moderator of this session. Even though my primary research area is real estate finance and economics, I personally fascinated by the NFT, how this NFT will impact on the real estate industry and how it will reshape our society and our ways of life in the near term. The session title is NFT Essential and Beyond. This session, we are going to invite 3 prominent speakers and share their view on the impact of NFT on society and business general. And I have a one-on-one interviews with these 3 speakers. So this session format is a little bit different from the other sessions. We have 3 speakers. The first speaker is Michael Casey, who is a very well-known blockchain journalist who used to work at the Wall Street, and now he's the chief content officer at the CoinDesk. And the second speaker is David Orban, who is a managing advisor of Beyond Enterprise. He also known as the first investor of Ethereum. And third speaker is Brett Yasar. He is the CEO of EQIFI, which is the decentralized global banking platform. I will hand over mic to Mr. Michael Casey. Michael Casey, please start your presentation.
Hello, I'm Michael Casey. I'm the Chief Content Officer of CoinDesk. We are a global media organization covering cryptocurrencies, digital assets, and the blockchain industry. We've been around now for about 9 years, and we are of the view that this technology is fundamentally important for the future of the economy, and we basically positioning ourselves to be there as the record keepers, the fourth estate, if you like, keeping this industry accountable. We think there's a very important role, particularly in these rather turbulent times in crypto markets, for reliable, trustworthy journalism to keep all the players accountable and make sure that this industry grows in a secure way that benefits everybody who's participating in it. So I myself personally have been a journalist most of my life. I was formerly at the Wall Street Journal. I've written a couple of books in this space, The Age of Cryptocurrency and The Truth Machine being those, co-authored with my former Wall Street Journal colleague, Paul Vigna. And I've also worked at MIT for a while as an advisor and been engaged in a number of different research projects within the crypto and blockchain space. I've been asked to talk about NFTs, non-fungible tokens, and this is an area that I've always been interested in. It's obviously become a hot topic in the past year and a half, but they've, as a concept, have been around for quite a bit longer within the blockchain space. And I think one of the reasons I was so passionate about it is because NFTs speak to some of the core problems that those of us who are in the creative industries, journalists, writers, artists, and others, have suffered with in the Web 2 era, with the internet platforms, the the Googles, the Facebooks and the Amazons of this world taking a dominating role in the intermediation of content and how it is distributed to audiences. So the thing that's really quite powerful for NFTs, which I need to stress are really a building block for a Web3 future. They are not in and of themselves going to solve the many, many problems that we've experienced in Web2 with this, domination of these platforms. But the thing that's really quite important is for the first time, you're able to identify in some way a piece of digital content as being unique. It creates the concept of digital scarcity that just didn't exist previously. And without digital scarcity, we had just this replication of digital content everywhere. And the only way to really monetize that was to put it all into a big system, like a Google or a Facebook, and basically hand over control of that to those entities. And then they became the arbiters of everything. They tracked all the data and they created all of the curation of that content, and they took the power out of the creators' hands and they disintermediated them from their audiences. So now there's an idea for the creator to actually, what I say is like put a serial number. It's like saying this digital file, this video, this piece of art, this anything that I created that is now in digital form, I can put a number on it, and I can, through the blockchain, go back and identify the moment in which the first instance of this file was created. And that gives me something upon which to build a reputation, and the capacity to bring it back to me and have some control over where it goes. It doesn't stop the fact that people can still, copy and paste that image. It doesn't have the mechanics of controlling the replication of all the content, but it does give us a starting point and a traceable, provable starting point. And that's really a powerful building block, as I say. There's a lot that needs to happen to then be built onto that. So before we can sort of build into a lot of the different use cases that people are thinking about for NFTs. For now, really what you have is what I would say the capacity to sell bragging rights. The idea that I can prove to other people that I was the one who purchased the very first identified instance of this creator certified piece of art, and that's in itself valuable. The fact that somebody else can come along and right click, paste, and create a version of the digital art that I own is confusing to some people. They say, well, how, you don't own that anymore. It can be transferred everywhere else. And that's why I say the real point is bragging rights. Now, that's actually a pretty valuable thing. If you think about the way our global economy works, so much of our value depends upon the capacity of what the young folk call to flex. It's why, for example, there are the names of rich benefactors all over the museums of the world. It's why people get into philanthropy. In many respects, this is about being able to say that I am the one who funded this process. And if we're thinking about art in those terms, that I've now got a digital mechanism by which I can be the benefactor of a bunch of artists, then it is a digital replication of that existing long-standing tradition of philanthropy and support for the arts in that way. And it makes it more democratic and broader, and it means that artists who weren't previously able to fund themselves very effectively because they had to get into a gallery or be certified by some, art expert, are now able to more directly reach out to collectors and say, hey, do you like my work? Can you support that? So that's what we're seeing right now. We're also seeing the emergence of these sort of NFTs as communities, where the most famous one probably is the Bored Ape Yacht Club, where as the provable owner of the very first distinct version of a piece of art, in the case of the Bored Ape Yacht Club, there's an avatar that is my very own distinct one of 10,000 different apes, these cartoon apes. that gives me a certain ticket and a membership of a club of others who have that thing. So you create these interesting new forms of community, and that in itself is proving to be quite a powerful force. So the idea here is less about the technical powers of NFTs, although that, as I say, is the building block for this, but more about what it's doing to the way that people organize themselves and gather around things they care about. And this gets really quite interesting when you think about the fact that there's all sorts of communities out there in which people have values. And so quite a lot of people in the environmental space are coming up with NFTs that are designed to reflect the interests of people in, say, preserving coral reefs or protecting the rainforest or ocean conservation. And that then means that I now can sort of get organized around others who are owners of those same NFTs and are therefore showing and reflecting in the same way that a benefactor is showing and reflecting their interest in supporting the arts. Here I am showing that I'm supporting some environmental cause, and the other community members who hold those same NFTs are now collectively working together to raise money to do things actively in support of those environmental causes. And there are interesting ways in which you can make the art that's connected to those NFTs develop and grow as proof that there is work being done to grow and improve those values that are the core part of the community. So these are sort of like where we are right now in terms of NFTs. As I say, bragging rights and kind of community organization. I think there's a lot more that could be done, though. It will require the addition of a whole lot of problems that are still yet to be solved, the solutions to those problems. But if we do, we can start to think about NFTs as the starting point for, what I would call digital property rights. The idea that I own or control something digital is still yet to be defined. I control the keys over those NFTs. Is it something that I own as a form of property? Is something maybe that the courts have to decide. But if we can start to build systems in which there are licensing and rights and mechanisms by which in the traditional world of media, arts, and entertainment, the owner of copyright is able to then license that work out to others. And if we can start to build into those NFTs reliable, transportable rights to those, I can start to think of a higher level application here, where I own an NFT, it represents something of value for everybody. I then confer a right to use that art that's attached to that NFT for some other purpose. And I start to have a more fluid system of media and of artistic creative works expansion. This economy starts to grow without the intermediation of the platforms. This is the key point, that we no longer have to rely on Facebook or Amazon to tell us where the audience is and what we should be making and so forth. So the idea that I can start to build a system of actually legally enforceable rights that I can transfer to others starts to open up NFTs to a much wider concept. And it starts to get associated with things like software and intellectual property and a whole range of different things, so that I may start to apply it to how an NFT could be attached to the right to use a piece of software. It could also be attached to things in the physical world. We need to figure out how, again, as I said, NFTs are a building block. We need lots of other pieces to come together. But if we can tether to the physical world through smart chips and digital forms that give a readout of a unique physical object, attaching that to an NFT then allows me to trace and track the movement of that physical good in ways that could be quite powerful for how we execute transactions along things like a supply chain. So, it starts to get really interesting when you go beyond this initial art use case into all of the different licensing opportunities and economic transaction opportunities that emerge out of this. Some people are talking about NFTs being attached to real estate, for example. But again, there's a lot of work that needs to go. This is an evolutionary process. NFTs are still in their infancy. There is a lot of problems in there. We need to figure out how the abuses of copyright that happen in this space are not so absolutely prevalent. There is an absolutely inordinate number, for example, of NFTs that are built upon art that was produced by somebody else independently, and it was just simply stolen and placed into some of these open marketplaces. And people are making money essentially off the art of somebody else without them realizing, which is just unfair and unreasonable. And then there's also, I think there needs to be a lot of work done in terms of interoperability. We have a system right now that is really just replicating the centralized platform worlds. Each of these marketplaces, OpenSea and so forth, are really largely walled gardens. If I buy an NFT there, it's not very easy for me to, even though it exists on a blockchain and I can transfer it, it's not very easy for me to be able to resell and sell that out to another platform. And this is, of course, the economics of capitalism. These platforms want to control the transactions that happen within them, but it's really against the spirit of what this is supposed to be. So we really need interoperability across blockchains, which is a solution that is being developed at the layer one level. This is a different question from NFTs, but it's the underlying technology where we need interoperability across different protocols, where assets can move from one chain to another. But it turns out we also need interoperability across platforms, even if they exist on a single protocol such as Ethereum. So we really need to figure out how we are going to reliably move assets around if we are going to unlock the real potential of a big open system, which is really the spirit of what the internet was all about. So that needs to happen. As I said, there needs to be licensing laws figured out. We need to do something about how we can tether this to the real world. We need to be able to really police the abuses in this space. But NFTs do solve something quite profound, right? This idea of digital scarcity, the idea that I can uniquely identify something in the digital world when previously it could just be replicated and built without any control whatsoever. This is a fundamental shift. This is a very important starting point for how we can rethink what the digital economy of the future looks like. So I'll leave it at that and happy to take questions now from the moderator.
My question is, the first one is that many considers that NFT creators are artists, like they are doing fine art or something. But as you explained, writers and other creators whose products can be digitalized can get benefits from NFT. So can you explain any successful case where writers can enjoy from his or her NFT products?
Yeah, so there's a project called Mirror, M-I-R-R-O-R, that is a really interesting way of giving writers creative ways to develop a big work, like a book, right? Oh. And they can essentially find investors in the project by writing a first chapter and then selling that chapter to investors in an NFT that is attached to that chapter of the first book. And then with the funding, therefore, move forward and keep writing the rest of it. And now they're collectively participating in the benefit and growth and expansion of that. Now we still, again, all these projects, again, need to figure out how it is that they transfer rights and concepts of ownership and so forth to those investors. But the model is an interesting one, right? It means that I don't have to go to a publishing house, a Random House or, Bertelsmann or these big players and say, hey, give me an advance to write a book. I can try to find essentially crowd investors in that process by giving them an NFT at the early stage of the process. A book is, I've written 5 books, and so it's a time-consuming process. You really have to, you need money because it takes up so much time, and that's why there's the tradition of the advance that comes from publishers. This is a different form of accessing an advance, and I think that's really quite exciting, actually.
So do you think more writers do they know about this NFT ecosystem and they are willing to join this market?
Yeah, I think there is going to be a growth in this because what's interesting as well is I think it ties as well into the idea of a DAO, right? The decentralized autonomous organization, because some of the first DAOs have been specifically built around creators, and writers are part of that you can form writer DAOs, groups of entities who ultimately come up with systems to support them. Now, you could imagine it's like in some sense like a guild, right? Like a trade organization. And those organizations, these self-help organizations, can then say to them, okay, how do we help you publish your first book? Well, here's a platform. Here is a pro forma model. Go ahead, use this, and we'll help you, reach out to the crowd and so forth. So there's a lot of self-help and a community organization going on in the creator community right now. And I think that's really one of the most exciting things here. People focus on the tech and they focus on the problems and the prices and the crazy things. The most interesting thing is what it's doing in terms of these self-help communities that are emerging around both NFTs and DAOs. And I think you're seeing a merger of those. That is really, really powerful, right? Because writers have always been alone, and creators and artists. I'm the one who has to go to the publishing house and sell myself. And I don't know. And if I'm not well respected, and this raises real interesting questions about diversity, because a lot of Black and artists of color have had a harder time breaking into the traditional art market because they don't have the same connections. They don't. The people who run galleries are wealthy individuals who come through the Ivy League schools, and that's a largely white community traditionally, right? So the idea that, as an artist or a writer, I now have a collective organization and a community that I can rely upon, and I've got a mechanism which I can directly interact with and engage with a benefactor or somebody who wants to buy that NFT. I think it's really quite powerful.
Okay. Actually, my daughter is as a student. She's going to a prep. She's an artist,
Oh, great! Yeah, my daughter is an artist as well.
Yeah.
NFT, so yes,
very promising in the
same as mine. We have the same story. Okay, we have to talk offline about this then, Kyung-Min Kim, because this is something familiar to me.
Actually, you mentioned also the Web3, right? And when I investigate the NFT market, I totally agree with your opinion. The DAO is really key part. They're facilitating this NFT market. So based on that view, DAO is very critical roles now and the future. So what is your view on the how this DAO contribute the advent of Web 3.0? So basically, we are waiting for this Web 3.0, but it is really bit vague, right? So
yeah. I mean, everything is vague, right? And this is why when you ask the questions, it's like it's evolutionary. It's something that needs to develop. And we're still figuring this out. Like, I mean, I had on my podcast a couple of weeks ago when we were at Consensus, our big event, Kimball Musk, the brother of Elon Musk, who has launched a DAO called the Green DAO. And we also had somebody called Tracy Bowen, who is from something called Her DAO. And we talked a lot about the DAOs are trying to figure out right now what governance looks like, right? How do you create a system where which everybody participates, or enough people participate? Maybe it's not everybody, right? Maybe there is a form of centralization where there is some entity or person within the DAO who has a bit more power and authority, but others not, right? So that you get efficiency and you get things done, but you can still have voting, and how do you incentivize and encourage that? And all this matters because what a DAO really does is move the power of decision making away from centralized body to the collective. It's a mechanism by which we can sort of, for want of a better word, democratize decision makings around communities of value. And I suppose in some respects what it is the antithesis of the traditional corporate structure, where there is a CEO, a C-suite set of managers, and then we have a hierarchical structure, and basically it's command and control. The CEO sets the agenda and all the instructions and decisions kind of filter down. So this is a mechanism for us to bring that decision making out to a broader group, but it's chaotic, right? I mean, having all these people somehow, and this is one of the reasons why blockchains are very difficult to upgrade and change, because organizing decision making around decentralized entities is difficult. But I think it's been really interesting to see the way that DAOs have, in these early stages, recognized that and are trying to find what the middle ground is, right? They don't want to, they're not being idealistic and saying everything should be decentralized. That would be impossible. But they are recognizing, okay, where are the boundaries? What key decisions, what need to be decided upon by the group, and how do we get those participants to be involved? And what decisions are those that are there? So I think we're going to see a lot of this evolve. And I think it's just really, really important, because there is power, literally power, economic and political power that comes from organization, right? So there's through the history of unions, but companies themselves are a reflection of that. They are a mechanism of power that gathers together multiple participants in the shareholding of those companies. So this is a new way to gather power and influence for people. It's giving a sense of ownership to folks in the process, and I think that's just really quite interesting.
My other question is that like a transferring the creator's ownership and copyright to others, it probably generate another level of the NFT ecosystem or the digital economy, right? So can you explain a little bit more about the importance of especially copyright sharing or transfer of the copyright to others? So why it is such an important thing?
Yeah, and here I have to give full disclosure that I was a founder of a company that is still operating alongside CoinDesk, that I am still the chairman of, but I'm a non-participating, non-executive chairman. It's called the Right Network, and the Right Network is working very specifically on some of these solutions. So I just wanted to just make sure that that disclosure is out there. But what we think needs to happen is some mechanism by which, in a decentralized environment, I can prove that I have the legal right to convey rights to others, right? So if I own if I'm a painter and I've painted a piece of art in the non-digital world, right, I'm recognized as that person, and I have the ownership of that. I have the capacity, the copyright in that. With the ownership of that copyright, I am now legally allowed to, sell to you some sort of license. You can make 50 T-shirts with my art on it, and that's I can set the commercial terms, whatever they are. You can go and make a film out of my book, right? Those are different mechanisms. These are classic mechanisms that we know in the existing world. So how might we take that in the digital world? How might we get it so that not only can I, as the owner of the art, use an NFT to transfer to you the rights to do it, but maybe I could give to you, the owner of this NFT, the right to do something else, so that we now create a derivative arts mechanism. And this is a traditional part of art, law for a long time. The derivative, there's the painter, somebody else uses that art to make a different version of it, a derivative version, and they now own that derivative art, but there is a right that goes to the original owner of that, the creator of that art. And then you can make a subsequent derivative of that derivative, right? So you have these systems that's been around for a long time. We think NFTs are a mechanism by which you can make that more reliable and predictable and more efficient. So what do we need? We need some mechanism by which the ownership, the right to do this can be proven. And how might that look? Well, maybe it's just the simple fact of creating a sort of a legal framework in which the courts can easily do this. We think that's really inefficient. There's probably arbitration systems and broader models around which, communities can come together and collectively confirm the right that is held by something. So, this is about trying to solve for the fact that, in the real world, we take for granted that I own the rights to such and such, I can then do it. We've also known, though, that in the digital world, it's been very hard to enforce that because people just copy things all over the place. Now with NFTs, there may be a way for us to more effectively enforce and assert our rights in that structure in the digital realm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, actually, this is my final question, and I wish to say that there are lots of big fan of you. I mean, because there is the Coindesk Korea, so your articles in Coindesk actually are translated in Korea, and there are a lot of Korean readers. And
good to know.
In behalf of the Korean readers, I really appreciate your participating in this session and sharing your great idea. So it'll be pretty helpful for Korean a crypto and NFT community to rethink about these NFT futures. I really appreciate your participation.
Very much. Next time, maybe we can do it in Seoul. I've been to a number of conferences in Korea, and I've always very, very much enjoyed it. I'm a huge fan of Korean food, for example. I love me some bibimbap and some kimchi. I'm a huge fan. So one day we get to a more fluid travel situation, and I'll be able to get back to Seoul. It'd be great. Thank you
please let me know when you come back when you visit Korea. So
absolutely.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Kyung-Min.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye. Mr. Michael, I appreciate your insightful speech and explanation. Next speaker is Mr. David Orban. His presentation title is NFT Business Model of the Future. Mr. David, please start your presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. And I am really looking forward both to sharing my thoughts with you, as well as to receiving questions from the audience that I will be very happy to address. If I can have my slides up on the screen as well. Thank you very much. So in my explorations and my thoughts, when I speak to the audiences like yours, I am really looking forward to showing the big picture. Not only what is possible today, but what is going to be possible tomorrow. What is the larger context within which we can look at a particular technology, a particular technological development, and see its role. And this, in my opinion, is useful to clarify so many things, especially the difference between the substance that over the longer term and the value that a given technology can deliver, as opposed to the hype, excessive degree of enthusiasm, or the opposite, excessive degree of skepticism that can dominate the conversation from a more marketing point of view. Beyond Enterprises, the company that I represent, is a strategic advisory firm. We are specialized in blockchain, where we offer leadership, advisory, and support capabilities to projects in many different areas. And over the course of the past 5 years, we worked with the teams from all over the world and their projects went from zero to $14 billion of combined market capitalization. My role within Beyond Enterprises is that of managing advisor. And as such, I am always delighted to meet with exciting new projects and to see how we can add value to their development from many angles where we can help. Now, some of the questions that I want to address today are what kind of future really we want to build, the technological infrastructure that we are putting together is having an immense impact. And we now realize the power of this infrastructure, and that is why we have to really take into account the consequences of our actions. As we build ever more powerful artificial intelligence solutions, but even more modestly, smart contracts in the blockchain world, we must realize that going forward, we cannot expect them to disappear. Those who talk about the problem of bots must come to peace with the reality that in the future, there will be more bots than not today. And the question is then, how can we coexist with them? And of course, the whole concept of immersive, collaborative worlds where whether humans or bots, we work and live together, these worlds must be inclusive. They must be interoperable. It is laughable to pretend that one or two or three corporations should dominate this future. Now, in the past, our ability to engage in the participation, vast numbers of people, was very coarse, very, very granular. Well, we would be lucky to be in a democracy where every 4 years, more or less, there was an election, which was the time when you were expected to be civically, politically engaged. But historically speaking, most of the time this wasn't the case. And the rhythm of the renewal of ideas would come in each generation at most, when a king or an emperor would be succeeded by the heir, and the heir would have the chance of really realizing his new ideas. In the corporate world, similarly, we build structures that delegate a lot of the decisions from the shareholders through the board to the management teams. But we can start asking ourselves, what is the best way to actually rethink the granularity and the engagement of these decisions? Because, of course, what we are talking about is the ability to organize and to allocate resources that economically, politically represent the future opportunities today of billions of peoples. When we are active on the current generation of online platforms, we don't realize, but we are already programming the algorithms with each of our likes, or when we are live streaming on YouTube and the reactions come, or when we are retweeting, amplifying the signal of a particular message. These actions already have in them the seeds of participation and community that we are now rethinking. And the role of NFTs is going to be to support exciting business models that do not depend anymore on advertising that has been the underpinning for the past 20 years and more of our online platforms and infrastructure. NFTs are creating new markets where it is going to be essential to have a full digital identity that represents our interests, our abilities and skills. A digital identity that can be linked to our physical identity with a full KYC procedure like it is being imposed in many jurisdictions. But it must also preserve and enable pseudonymous and anonymous participation online. The rich texture of cultural expression, of creativity, of participation cannot flourish if it is exclusively intended to be associated to the particular expressions we have become accustomed to show when we are talking about the physical identity that we carry. The current platforms are absolutely inadequate to support the shift to these new business models. Yes, we hear every day of experiments that some or another of the existing platforms are carrying out, trying to incorporate NFTs in their systems and applications. Some of these experiments may even be successful, but the probability that the winning solutions of a new decentralized and distributed infrastructure for creator communities to thrive would come from among the existing dominating platforms of today is a very, very low probability. I believe that we will find new protagonists by the dozens that will emerge and will become important in implementing, incorporating, and taking advantage of new technologies like those of NFTs. The role of artificial intelligence is going to be crucial. It is developing at a jolting pace. The rate of acceleration of artificial intelligence is increasing. And we can and have to ask ourselves, what is going to be the role of AI in making NFTs exciting, in making NFT-based markets and business models viable? It is through the interaction of these different technologies between blockchain and AI, NFTs and bots, that I believe we will be able to build something that is viable for the long term and that will give a platform to creators to succeed in the next decade, as well as the current decade of the 21st century. We have a lot to do, a lot of hard work that needs to be done. And it has to be done in a manner that delivers on our long-term vision, but also recognizes what is possible today in order to start delivering value to people who are excited and are looking to the technology developers what they can do. Thank you very much. I hope that this presentation was interesting, and I am looking forward to receiving your questions, which I will be very happy to answer.
A very interesting presentation. Based on your explanation, I think the key concept of presentation is how NFT will change our society. Probably it should be more inclusive and generating more power to each people. But I concern about how to decrease the a digital gap, because even when I open the MetaMask, it is a little bit difficult to open it. Even I used to work in the Silicon Valley as a software engineer, but it's really difficult. So probably seniors, probably they might have very difficult. They feel difficulties to open MetaMask and absorb some NFT technologies. So how does NFT world need to do something to make more inclusive society, even including this, the seniors?
That is a fundamental question. We always talk about blockchain technology, cryptocurrencies extending to billions of people, but the barrier to that actually happening is in the ease of use of the technology. Now, I'm an optimist. I know there is a lot of work that needs to be done, but I am also confident that it will be done and successfully completed. We have examples from the past. I remember when email clients could not successfully and natively accept attachments. We used a separate program to cut the tail end of an email message and then recombine the characters into the image, for example, that represented the attachment. A very, very geeky process that no one besides technologists could successfully complete. But today, devices are easy to use. And my mother, who is over 80 years old, successfully uses her iPad to send and receive emails with attachments, to participate in online communities, even becoming an admin of a group discussing art and philosophy. So with NFTs is going to be the same. The current generation of cumbersome interfaces is going to be upgraded to the point that the only barrier is going to be the curiosity and eagerness of anyone to embrace it.
Thank you. So my next question is that the NFT shows a novel way of generating incomes for the creators. So a creator can royalties from some NFT products, meaning that they can get paid a certain percentage of the history price each time that NFT is resold in the future. So how does NFT affect the creator economy?
There are so many opportunities that still are waiting to be explored. We have some use cases, of course, the digital artwork itself, or the right to participate at a given level in a particular community. But these are just two examples, and there will be, I am sure, many that will be understood, implemented at a very high degree of sophistication. The starting point really is that of a community of passionate followers of a creator people who are given the opportunity to be engaged, to show their loyalty, to show support in a very direct manner to the creator, and in a way that previous generations of tools didn't enable. Now, there will be, of course, waves of enthusiasm going back and forth, ebbing and flowing. The decentralization will potentially give way to a new wave of centralization. And it will be interesting to understand what is the role of intermediaries in this new world, if they will have any. What would be the labels in the music industry or publishers in the book industry? At every point, however, I believe creators will have a greater degree of freedom, and they will have the ability to maintain a relationship with their community that is much stronger than before.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. You know what? Since last winter, the NFT price tend to drop, amid the crypto crashes. So do you think either coin or NFT backed by underlying asset outperforms others without underlying asset?
The criticism that there is no value in digital assets, especially cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin or NFTs, is quite widespread. And of course, anyone is free to sell for any value, including zero. If someone in the audience wants to send me their Bitcoin for zero in exchange, I will be very happy to give them my Bitcoin wallet address and receive their Bitcoin. The fact that maybe those in the audience following my answer are laughing demonstrates that they believe that Bitcoin has some value that is non-zero, even if there are no physical world assets backing it. So NFTs are the same. Really, it is a market. It is a very liquid market. Volatility in this market is natural. There have been billions and billions of dollars every month that exchange hands in the NFT markets worldwide. And if this number goes down a little bit, that is perfectly fine. It signals a different phase in the exploration of the technology infrastructure. I'm not able to comment on the value of a given collection of NFTs, of course, but I believe in the staying power of the technology and the value that can bring to creators everywhere in the world.
Okay. You're very optimistic about your NFT future, right? So no matter what, those current situations a little bit tanking.
There may be new acronyms. There may be new technologies that integrate what today we call a non-fungible token in novel solutions. But we can ask ourselves if in 20, 30 years, we have a swarm of intelligent robots extracting minerals in the asteroid belt. Are they going to transact in order to properly allocate resources of energy and communication and bandwidth with credit cards? Are they going to agree in wire transfers, bank transfers amongst them? Are they going to write a check and sign the check in space, in orbit around Mars? all of these are laughable. I don't know if they are going to exchange Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever other cryptocurrency, but the kind of digital infrastructure that we are building today is what is going to be the basis of what they do 20, 30 years from now, not the creaky, inadequate infrastructure of the previous century. And for NFTs is the same. We can ask ourselves, is a given streaming platform going to be more popular or the other? But no one is going to ask if in 5 or 10 years, the top charts of the music industry are going to be dominated by the measurement of the sales of long-playing vinyl discs. There is no way of going back. And NFTs are going to be part of the future in the creator industry.
Well, I have a question about your investment in Ethereum, because you are known as a first investor or first buyer of Ethereum. So back then, what is your thought on Ethereum, and do you think the Ethereum community or Ethereum ecosystem is evolving as you expected before?
I am always enthusiastic in backing passionate and talented projects that are building something that has value for large number of people. And Ethereum certainly was such a project. Today, Ethereum is in a very, very delicate phase, going from a proof of work algorithm to a proof of stake algorithm that no major blockchain has ever attempted. I believe they will be successful. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that there is no space for other blockchains that may specialize in different kinds of environment. They can be adopted and form the basis for different kinds of solutions. I am thinking of Cardano, for example. And my view is always for the long term. I am unable to say if the current bear market is going to last a month or a year, and relatively uninterested, because I believe that over the course of 5 and 10 years, this technology is going to literally change the world, as it has already started with many in countries that previously were not able to participate in the global financial communities, who are now, because of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, are able to be part of the global community. Mm-hmm. And NFTs are going to be the same. They will give a platform for creators that come from unexpected places in the world, giving a new and rich set of artwork for all of us to enjoy. And it is very healthy. It is very much preferable than not having 1 or 2 poles of attraction that are the officially sanctioned and supported sources of culture all over the world.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. My last question is about the, recently NFT and ESG have become a major buzzwords. So is there any possible way linking these two little bit different fields?
The future businesses are going to be, by definition, sustainable. Mm-hmm. For too long, we believed that it would be possible to always hide under the carpet the externalities of our economic activities. But today, in a globally interconnected world, with important challenges ahead of us, in order to maintain or even improve the ability of the human civilization to support individuals and make them thrive, the only way to do that is to be transparent and accountable across every economic activity of a given business and all of the businesses. This is what blockchain and NFTs make possible. One of the criticism that ESGs receive is that the criteria with which they are measured is not objective enough, is not reproducible and independent enough. So combining NFTs and the ESGs, the resulting solution can be only much more transparent, much more accountable, and I believe that will be necessary. And whether individual companies or funds or sovereign policy makers, these will be important data points for driving decisions for the future.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. David. Thank you for your very thoughtful and interesting comment. Especially, personally, I have an interest in how to integrate this NFT technology on real estate side. I think the technology, evolving technology, will be, the solve a lot of issues in society as well. And
I am sure.
Okay, thank you very much again.
Thank you.
Mr. David, many thanks for your explanation. And our next speaker is Mr. Brett Yasar. He's the CEO of the EQIFI, DeFi financial company. Mr. Yasar, please start your presentation.
Thank you for having me. My name is Brad Yasar. I am the CEO of EQIFI, DeFi platform, licensed, regulated, and backed by bank, EQIBank, which is also a licensed and regulated global bank. So our journey with EQIFI started a few years back, but the origins are even go farther back, where we wanted to create a financial platform that allowed people to benefit from both traditional banking products and services, as well as experience the new products created in the decentralized finance or DeFi space. It started as us creating EQIBank in 2015, and then in 2020 continued with the addition of EQIFI platform, which allowed us to offer decentralized products and services to our community. So far, we have about a dozen products that work really well. On the DeFi side, we have variable rate borrowing lending. We have fixed rate borrowing lending. We have a yield aggregator product that's is the crown jewel of our platform. We have interest rate swaps to go from variable to fixed and vice versa, as well as staking. On the banking side, we have bank accounts, credit cards, traditional credit facilities, wealth management, as well as an OTC desk that allows you to go from crypto assets to fiat and vice versa.
Thank you for explanation. And can you explain about your view on the NFT industry?
Yes, NFT started in 2017. Well, actually, the non-fungible tokens outside of Ethereum started even earlier than that. But without going too much back in the history to colored coins or anything like that, NFTs have been in the early stages just a way to differentiate between different tokens, because prior to that, a lot of the crypto assets were fungible, meaning one asset is no different than the other. But because of the immutability of the blockchain and ease of tracking and tracing transactions, it was natural that at some point we wanted to have non-fungible tokens and assets, hence the name NFT, non-fungible token. And so they started their journey as ownership tokens. So the original well-known NFTs were CryptoPunks and CryptoKitties that were basically image representations of the art that was created randomly by those projects, and the NFT represented ownership. Fast forward to today, NFTs have become a much more sophisticated and have more functions than that. The biggest excitement around NFTs is, of course, provenance and ownership. EQIFI was the first platform to launch an NFT debit card that you could use in the metaverse, which was really exciting for us because we could issue the same debit card that someone physically has in the real world, in the virtual world, and allow them to use that to transact. So that's one application from a banking and finance perspective. The other applications, of course, to art, to music, to all the artists is incredible. It's game-changing because up to this point, people were only able to, artists who created art, especially visual artists, painters, designers, were only able to create something and sell it once. Once it was sold, there were no royalties coming to them after the first sale. So the second, third, fourth sale might have been the most lucrative for that piece of art, but it didn't help the artists themselves, other than name recognition, of course. However, with NFTs, now we're able to create a royalty stream for a lot of artists. A lot of music artists know that how valuable royalties from an album can be. Now, visual artists can experience the same revenue stream because NFTs allow you to capture some of the percentage of the sale back to the creator of the piece itself. So I think NFTs are in their infancy. We haven't really seen the best use cases, but the use cases that we have seen are very promising, both for financial industries, for titles and ownership documents and such, as well as for the creative industries and via royalties and income streams for the artists.
You mentioned that the NFT application to this financial industry is quite promising, and can you explain me more other cases? Because in Korea there are a lot of people interested in NFT, but they consider that as you mentioned, that NFT's application is probably only focused on art and creator economies. But you mentioned that your company already implement like an NFT-based debit card in a metaverse. So my question can be, if you explain me some successful, promising cases, and what was your view on this starting this NFT implementation on the metaverse?
Absolutely. So NFT implementation in the metaverse was very exciting for me because I always thought the boundaries between the virtual and the real are slowly disappearing as the quality of the immersion in the virtual realms are getting better and better, and we have better hardware to go into those worlds. I think it's a very exciting time to explore how much that line will be blurred in the next 5 to 10 years. Going back to your original question about different use cases for NFTs, because of their non-fungible nature, obviously the easiest use cases come from representation of ownership. So you can use NFTs for certain financial products, physical products like cards and things of that nature, because you can differentiate them in the virtual realm the same way you would be able to in the physical realm. If I have the card, that's my card. Everyone knows that. Well, virtually, you have to know who owns it and who's controlling that asset that gives you access to the same funds. So for us, it was groundbreaking to create the first NFT debit card in the world. And it was very exciting. Now, you can also tokenize things and put ownership documents on NFTs. The same way you want to know if I'm using a card that I'm the authorized user and I'm in possession of that with the NFT in my wallet, you can do the same thing for land ownership, property ownership. How do you currently prove that you own a building, a house, a condominium? The only way you can prove it is there's a third-party register that the government recognizes as the official register, and the information that they have actually proves that you own something. You don't have anything because the documents you have, your title and all those things can be forged. But the third-party validation actually grants you that privilege of owning that asset. Well, if you wanted to apply NFTs to that, you can do the same thing with NFTs. Each building, each condo unit, each house, each parcel of land can have an NFT attached to it. Now, you don't need the land registrar to say, you sold me some land or you sold me a condo. All you need to do is transfer that NFT from your wallet to mine, and now I own it because I have the ownership token. So it's a huge leap in technology because you're eliminating all the intermediaries that need to have impeccable bookkeeping for you to have ownership. And this has proven so far historically to be very difficult because there are so many countries where land registries don't work too well and sync up with each other. So you have a bunch of different owners for the same parcel, and they're registered at different offices of the same government entity. So it creates a lot of friction when someone says, hey, I own this house, and someone else comes and says, no, I have the papers, I own this. And you need to litigate and reconcile that ownership. Whereas with an NFT, it's very simple. You own the property, you have the NFT. If the NFT goes to you, now you own the property. And we can even expand from there and turn it into a rent-bearing NFT, where if you own the NFT, the rent payments on that property come to your wallet because it's set up that way. If I own it, and so the renter doesn't need to know who owns the property or doesn't need to interact for the payments. The payments go to the NFT, the owner holds the NFT, and as a result, you've eliminated a lot of intermediaries, a lot of friction, and a lot of costs of doing business and transacting. That's another area in finance. You can expand that to stocks and bonds. We can tokenize whole traditional markets with NFTs. And instead of issuing stock certificates that need to be, of course, unique so people know who owns what, you have now NFT certificates of the stocks issued, which again simplifies the transfer process. Now you don't need transfer agents. You don't need a lot of the attorneys and custodians that are between a stock issue and the purchaser. If you've been a part of any IPO, you will know that there's at least 3-4 parties between the company that issues the stocks in an exchange, secondary exchange, and the parties that buy that stock. And all those people obviously want to make money. All those steps add more costs and more fees onto the transaction. But imagine a world where, as a company, you go to a stock exchange. Let's say New York Stock Exchange becomes fueled by NFTs. So they're using NFTs to issue new stocks. Now they don't need an issuing agent. They don't need a transfer agent. They don't need escrows. They don't need any of that. They just create the NFTs, and the company doing the sale sells them to individual holders that get the NFTs in their wallets, and the transaction is done because everyone knows who created that NFT. The origination, the Genesis wallet and address is very clear. Everyone knows what it represents. It's numbered, it's tracked. You can add KYC AML to NFT, so it's very transparent and compliant with the existing rules and regulations around public sales and stocks and commodities. And now you just eliminated 3-4 layers of middleman. So that's also a very exciting area of NFTs that hasn't been explored as much as I would like. I mean, everyone talks about tokenizing an asset. They want to tokenize buildings. They want to tokenize businesses. No one is really talking about taking the NFT technology, the backbone, and bringing it to the existing systems. Mm-hmm. So instead of tokenizing stocks, you still have stocks. You don't tokenize them, but the way you track and trace them becomes token-based. So you're taking the infrastructure and implementing it, which for me is very exciting. I mean, less middleman, less friction, less fees, more accessible all these products become. Same with loans, the number one step in anyone borrowing or lending is identity. I need to know who you are, so I can either borrow money from you or lend you money. And I want to know that you are who you are, and the funds that you claim to have are yours to begin with, and two, are available for me. With NFTs, we can create borrowing lending platforms, which EQIFI and EQIBank are already working on, and really eliminate the need for credit ratings, eliminate the need for third-party validation in these transactions. Another exciting thing we're doing, since you mentioned, metaverse, is, the metaverse itself is becoming a self-sustaining economy. Now there are land sales in the metaverse, there are building sales, there are car business sales. There's a lot of transactional activity happening. And at the beginning, the prices of these things were relatively cheap, a couple $100, maybe a couple $1,000 for the most desirable ones. So pretty much anyone in crypto could afford to buy these things, cash up front. Now, as those economies mature, you see some of these virtual lands go for hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars. Now, there is a need for virtual loans, virtual mortgages. Again, EQIFI is in the forefront of allowing people to buy land, buy buildings, buy businesses in the metaverse, in a virtual setting with a loan. And obviously, the way we do it is with NFTs and loans against NFTs and NFT collateralization. So that's just 4 examples. I mean, I can go on because I'm very passionate and excited about this, but there are real practical use cases, both of the technology stack and of course, the application stack with NFTs.
Yeah, a very interesting explanation, because I'm working in the real estate finance industry, real physical industry. But as you mentioned, that the NFT technology is revolutionized this, the transfer process of real world, and it may mitigate the trust issues. So my question is about the real estate thing. I mean, I totally agree with your opinion. NFT application to a real estate registry is quite revolutionized the real estate industry overall. But can you explain? But in like a developed nations, probably they're a little bit hesitant, and those NFT technology will be very facilitate those issues in developing or underdeveloped nations. Is there any legal issues, like lawmakers are hesitant to implement NFT technology in this real estate industry?
Of course. It's not just developing nations or underdeveloped nations. The real estate industry has always been somewhat behind on technological innovation, because it's a very as the saying goes, brick and mortar business. You know, you can touch, you can feel, you can stand on the land you own and say, this is mine. You can, you know, go into the building you bought and say, this is mine, I own this. So the mentality of both regulators and investors in real estate has always been, if I can touch and feel it, it's real. If I can't, then I can't. That's why to this day, in a country like United States, you still get paper copies of land ownership documents and transfer documents. I mean, paper copies. Although, you know, we can digitally sign everything, we can make certified copies, PDF copies of everything for the past 10 years. It hasn't changed because people want to hold on to that deed paper and say, this is my deed, this is proof that I own it. So it's very difficult to go from that mindset of pen and paper and holding things to suddenly something is on the blockchain. Well, what is the blockchain? Can I touch it? Can I go and visit it? Well, you can't. So it's fascinating how there is no categorical resistance to innovation. If something innovates and makes people more money, if creates value for the majority of the parties involved, everyone loves it. But to get to that point of them understanding the opportunity is a lot of education, and it's been a slow process, because you go to a builder and say, hey, do you want to sell your new condo building for crypto? And they say, no, Bitcoin fluctuates so much, I would lose money, because the mainstream media has demonized everything crypto. Everyone thinks every crypto asset is violently volatile and they change in value 200% in each direction every day, and it's unmanageable. I mean, we have stable coins. You can use stable coins to do real estate transactions. You don't need to touch Bitcoin or Ethereum or any of the volatile assets. But the conversation is not around that. It's not around how we can implement. It's always around how it would be dangerous to and a little bit of fear mongering, just because the intermediaries don't want to lose their jobs. I mean, imagine if you could have all land registry on a blockchain that's publicly available and supported by a government. That would eliminate all of the government jobs for land registry work. That would eliminate all the registration agents, escrow agents, everyone. I mean, you were changing the fabric of a whole industry. And a lot of the times, because there's not enough education, there's not enough transparency on the opportunity, what that represents for the industry as a whole, how many new jobs it can create, how much more value it can create for the players, everyone is scared. And everyone's like, well, we heard about blockchain, but we don't want to use it. We heard about crypto, we don't want to use it. We heard about NFTs, but, I like my paper deed. Give me my paper deed. I don't know what to do with a wallet. And to be honest, the technology on the blockchain side has not evolved to a point where it's easy to use. So some of that fear actually stems from people trying to understand it, trying to use it, but not being able to. And as soon as we simplify and remove the barriers to entry, I expect a lot more people, both government officials, regulators, investors, builders, to jump onto the opportunity and say, this is amazing. I can conclude a property sale in 24 hours, whereas before it used to be 2 weeks at best in United States, and even longer in different parts of the world, Europe, Middle East. I mean, you're talking about weeks and weeks of a lot of people working, whereas with the blockchain, with the use of NFT technology, we can reduce it to a day.
Yeah, thanks for your explanation. Actually, I think there's some attitude and the preference issue of the mortar and brick industry, because they should accept new technology to enhance customers' benefit in the future. And because you mentioned that is your company is doing the virtual mortgage finance in a metaverse is quite interesting. But the thing is that amid the crypto crashes, the NFT sales volume and NFT price is a little bit decreasing right now. So do you think that this kind of the crypto crash situation will impact on this like a virtual mortgage industry and the other NFT ecosystem?
Well, of course, any bear market, any market correction affects all of the assets involved, whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, or an NFT collection. When trillions of dollars leave crypto market cap, everyone suffers from that departure. So there is an overall general feeling around, the bear market being here and less funding being available. And also NFTs have a lot of fad projects, which is, it's a part of the NFT culture. There are these collections that pop up that become very popular, very in demand, and then they fade and, something else replaces them. So those cycles, both in the NFT space itself, of people trying new things, people launching new art pieces, new collections, new communities based on NFTs, and them coming and going is always going to be there. The technology itself, I don't believe, is going to be affected by a bull or a bear market. Now we know we can use NFTs to do certain things, and we know the value of that. Now, how fast different industries adopt that and realize that value, that's to be seen. But I don't think just because there's a crash in crypto markets and the markets in general, and there's a bearish sentiment, that it's gonna suddenly stop use of NFTs. We're not gonna suddenly see all the collections fail, all the use cases fail, and NFTs go away, because it is a valuable, valid technology that a lot of industries can benefit from. Will some collections reduce value, lose value, maybe go out of favor? Yes, that happens all the time in the art world. One year such and such artist is really blowing up and having a great success. 2 years later, their works of art are no longer desirable. So that's going to happen on the art side of the NFTs. On the financial institutional side of the NFTs, it's a technology stack. So institutions are going to implement them, they're going to adopt them, and then they're going to ask for their regulators to approve it and recognize it. I mean, can you imagine one of the big builders in a country going to the regulator and saying, I want to sell all the new properties I build as NFTs. Can you help me? I mean, these are job creators. These are people who have incredible financial influence because they pay a lot of taxes, they create a lot of jobs, and they really, fuel the economy in those cities, countries, states. So if someone like that came and said, I want to do my next sale in NFTs, they're going to have the ear of the regulator, and there's going to be a good open conversation, and we're waiting for those moments to happen. To go back to your last question, do we think the market conditions will affect launch of our new products? I don't think so, because the demand is there. Unless the land prices, the virtual land prices collapse so much that they're back to being $100,000 and no one needs a mortgage loan for $100, obviously then they wouldn't need, no one would need the products we're creating, because they can just buy it straight up, which they have been doing in the early days of metaverse. But if we are to believe that metaverse is going to grow, multiple metaverse projects are going to come together and connect to each other, and the prices are going to appreciate as more and more people are interested in those scarce resources, then there's always going to be a breaking point when people are not going to want to buy things for upfront cash and want to make a down payment and make payments on it. And that's, that's our product, and there's going to be demand for it.
Okay, very interesting. Because you mentioned about the volatility issue. So in order to keep NFT price sustainable, I think there are some roles of DAO. Maybe DAO can do something to keep those prices sustainable, and they can facilitate those NFT like ecosystem. What is your view on DAO?
So I think DAOs are fascinating. The biggest challenge with DAOs is the second letter in the name. So it's a decentralized autonomous organization. It's the autonomy part that we need to really work on creating. Because when I hear autonomous, and a lot of people interpret DAOs as decentralized voting mechanisms and decentralized decision-making platforms, I read it literally. I don't interpret it as a decentralized voting or participation mechanism. I like the autonomy aspect of it. So for a DAO to realize its full potential, it needs to be autonomous from its individual elements. And I think there is incredible work being done in that regard. I know a couple projects that recently became DAOs, and they were traditional businesses before, and they are in the forefront of that transformation, where you go from an entity that has owners and a board and a bank account and liabilities to a DAO that sustains the project. It's much easier done if the project is purely digital, of course. If the payments can be in digital, the product is digital, so the DAO can deliver it. A DAO for real estate would be slightly more complicated to deliver, because how does the DAO verify the condition of a property? How does the DAO verify existing of a property? You're going to need an oracle there, and that oracle is going to have to be autonomous, maybe a robotic, maybe some drone that can scan and say, yes, that building is still there, it's intact and it's in good condition. But in different applications of DAOs, when the DAO needs to interact with its environment, you're adding layers of complications and difficulty into the project, because a DAO that controls a crypto wallet, it's relatively straightforward. You create the DAO, you put it on the blockchain, you create the wallet, you put it on the blockchain. They're both on the blockchain, preferably the same one, so they can talk to each other. And then the members of the DAO control certain decisions and functionality. Straightforward. A DAO that owns and operates real estate, ultimately complicated. How does it service the buildings? How does it pay the bills in fiat and things like that? So I expect to see a lot of work in connecting DAOs to the real world in the next 5 to 10 years. A lot of new Oracle services that are going to pop up, the same way we have price oracles and things on Ethereum, on Solana, and it interacts with the blockchain. I think we're going to start having real world oracles with robotics attached to it, and that can interact with the physical world in a way that can take that data and feed it into the DAO to make the right decisions. Only then, I think, the idea of a DAO managing a portfolio of real estate or portfolio of loans and things like that is going to be more practical.
Mm-hmm. Well, very fascinating. Mr. Brad, because due to a time constraint, we may stop our conversation right now, but I really appreciate your views, especially you cover a lot of things in a very short time, NFT, metaverse, and the virtual mortgage. I was really fascinated, and your explanation on DAO is quite helpful for Korean audience to understand how this NFT industry is evolving, and it will be evolutionary and how it reshaped the whole industry and our society. I really appreciate your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here and happy to, share some insights. I think, again, education is key. People, if they don't understand, they don't know, it's really hard for them to get into the space, participate, build things. And I really enjoy bringing more people into this world.
Okay, thank you. Actually, I personally, established a startup company, like integrating the NFT and the real estate industry. Personally, your explanation really fascinating. I will contact you soon.
Yeah, please. Anytime. If you have any questions, if there's anything I can do, I'm a resource. I'm available.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Well, I'm pretty sure that you audience can get lots of insight from these three speakers. We are facing an age of the uncertainty. We are experiencing unexpected inflation, like a super inflation, and it is pretty sure that this inflation issue impact on lots of things like asset and your life. But no matter what, we are facing this economic downturn in near term. The technology evolution relating to NFT is pretty sure that impact on our society and our lives. So we hope that this session will broaden view on NFT and its future. Thank you very much.
네, 지금까지 상지트폴 초더리 플랫폼 싱킹랩스 대표의 키노트를 시작으로 총 3개의 세션, 3분의 모더레이터와 함께 3분의 모더레이터와 10분의 패널께서 함께 코드 컨퍼런스의 시작을 해주셨는데요. 각 분야 리더들을 통해 주제별 임팩트 있고 생생한 인사이트를 얻을 수 있는 귀한 시간이 되셨길 바랍니다. 이런 아쉬움을 뒤로하고 어느덧 첫째 날 종료 시간이 다가왔습니다. 급격히 진화하는 기술 속 거대한 응전이 시작되는 이 시점에서 앞으로도 다양한 인사이트를 함께 활발히 공유할 수 있는 기회가 더 확대되기를 기대하겠습니다. 2022 코드 컨퍼런스, 오늘 여러분들의 큰 관심 속에서 잘 마무리할 수 있었습니다. 참여해주신 모든 여러분께 다시 한번 진심으로 감사의 말씀드립니다. 내일 16일은 노들섬에서 행사가 진행됩니다. 로봇공학자 데니송 UCLA 기계항공공학과 교수님의 키노트를 시작으로 메타버스, 인공지능, 미디어, 그리고 디지털 플랫폼 정보까지 흥미롭고 유익한 주제로 다양한 전문가들의 인사이트가 이어질 예정입니다. 네트워킹 시간뿐만 아니라 작년 코드의 거대한 프로젝트 중 하나였죠. 우리 무대를 지켜주세요 우무지팀의 공연도 이어지오니 많은 기대 부탁드립니다. 저희 컨퍼런스 마지막 날 행사는 오프라인으로 진행되고 물론 오늘처럼 이벤터스를 통해 온라인으로도 생중계되니 마지막 날까지 많은 관심과 참여 부탁드리겠습니다. 지금까지 2022 코드 컨퍼런스 거대한 응전이 시작되다 사회 이음이었습니다. 고맙습니다.